Hi everyone, I hope you are doing good. Myself Ramu Samneni, working as Assistant Professor in Department of Pharmaceutical Sciences, BFSTR, Vadlamu. So today I would like to discuss about the pharmaceutics course. So pharma means drug, sutics means technology. So you should apply some technology and you should produce some dosage forms. So the dosage forms are mainly helpful to prevent or to cure the disease mainly to the patient in a safe and effective manner. So the pharmacy is a profession mainly involving for the healthcare area. So the pharmacy graduates are needed especially to produce the medicines and also to enhance the safety of the people. So in this pharmaceutics course, you are having the 5 units. Out of 5 units, I would like to discuss about today.
So the importance of the dosage forms will be very highly needed currently for the peoples who are facing the problems, especially for the acute diseases or chronic diseases. So we are currently using different types of dosage forms in our regular life, whether you can preferably using oral dosage forms, and including to that we are also using some of the parenteral dosage forms, topical dosage forms, and also for the otic dosage forms and nasal dosage forms and ophthalmic dosage forms and ear dosage forms. So in this video I would like to discuss about the importance of the dosage forms and different types of dosage forms. So I would like to discuss about the what is means of drug and what is the importance of the drug or a medicine, and how this drug or medicine is mainly helpful for the people who are having the diseases. And the basic definition, like a drug or a medicine or a dosage form, it is a means of conventional and controlled and sustained releases and different products I want to discuss. And what is the need or importance of the dosage form also I would like to highlight in this presentation. And the different types of dosage forms, like it is a solid or liquid or a semi-solid or a gaseous dosage forms. These are I need to convey. So what is the difference between a normal, conventional versus controlled release? And finally I need to go for summarizing the whole presentation and references. So let us see one after the other. So the dosage forms are the very important one for the patients. So the dosage forms are mainly the drug molecules are delivered to the site, particularly to produce some action to the patient, mainly for curing the disease or by preventing the disease and providing the health environment to the people. So dosage forms are the drug molecules are delivering to the site particularly, and it is producing the action to the patient and try to removing the discomforts are facing by the patients. The need of dosage forms will be delivering in the accurate dose, and the dosage forms will be needed for the if your dosage form is having a protection environment, like you are taking an uncoated tablet, it is not having that much protection. So better you take a protection tablet, means you need to preferably using for the coated tablets. Or a sealed ampules, also you will be having the high protection, and the activities also will be very good in terms of bioavailability cases. And you need to protect your drug from the gastric juices. That means some of the drugs are easily degraded while it is going to contact with the gastric juices or gastric fluids. That's why you try to protect that type of sensitive drugs from the gastric juices. And some drugs are also having a very nauseous and bitter taste, and that the patient compliance problems will be facing. That's why you try to mask the taste and the odor of the dosage form, and try to preferably placing the drug in a suitable route. So that means the patient compliance will be there or not, you need to check. That means the placement of the drugs in the body tissues or the placement of drug in wherever the site is preferable by the patient. And your dosage form is having the sustained action, means you try to reduces the number of doses administration. That means the frequency of administration is try to control. And the controlled release medication. That means your dosage form is releases in a predetermined manner, and each time it is try to reduces the discomforts are facing by the patients, and it is releases in a uniform manner, and up to the certain period it's try to releases the drug in a suitable manner and predetermined manner. Definitely it is also having certain advantage. And the dosage forms are try to producing the optimal drug action to the patient, and you try to inserting the dosage forms into the body cavities like a rectal, vaginal or ear cones or nasal cones. So wherever the site is administered, when the patient is acceptable and the patient compliances will be very high, and that type of dosage forms are definitely you need to insert into the body cavities. Especially we are inserting into the body cavities like a rectal dosage forms and vaginal dosage forms. And the use of desired vehicles for especially the drugs which are having the low solubility, definitely in that cases you try to use the solvents, or you try to use the vehicles mainly for increases the solubility of your preferred drug. So medicine, any chemical substance intended for cure or for preventing the disease, either in animals or humans, mainly for preserving the health for the humans in a largest and also for the safe manner, that chemical substance you can calling as a medicine. In terms of pharmacy, the medicine is mainly combining with the both the active pharmaceutical ingredient and also for the excipients. So the active pharmaceutical ingredient means it is a pure form of the drug, and it is combining with the excipients like a diluents, binders, granulating agents, disintegrating agents. Mainly if you added the other excipients or other adjuvants, then the bulk amount will be produced and your dosage form is automatically needs the stability. That's why the medicine is combining with the both API with the excipients. So in olden days we are using different types of medicines, like we are mainly dependent on the ancient days like a Ayurvedic medicine. Later British rules are coming, and then allopathic medicines are came into our Indian system. Because of the Britishers came into the India, and once they ruled India, in that case allopathic medicines are mainly highly focused in Indian system. So ancient peoples are using Ayurvedic medicines, later followed by the Unani medicines, then homeopathic medicines, and now currently we are using allopathic medicines. And we are using so many vaccines and sera products from our childhood itself, from up to 6 years. We are taking so many vaccines. So the vaccines and sera products are mainly comes under the biotechnological medicines. So we are using so many vaccines like a BCG vaccine, you are using polio, like a cholera. In terms of you are using so many vaccines from your childhood you are taking. So that all vaccines came from the biotechnological medicines areas. So the medicines are mainly we are using ancient like Ayurvedic medicines, Unani medicines, homeopathic medicines and allopathic medicine. Currently nowadays we are also dependent on the both allopathic medicines and also for the homeopathic medicines. Now some people are also dependent on the Ayurvedic medicines. So the need of dosage form is very important for in terms of safety, reliability, efficacy and stability. So you need to take accurate dose, and the right dose you need to administer to the right patient in a right manner and in a right time. Then automatically that dosage form is having the higher activity in a suitable patients. And it is also protecting from the gastric juice. It is not if you are having this sensitivity of your drug is will be exposing to the gastric juice, it is going to degrade it, means you try to protect your drug, means you need to giving the coatings around your tablets, then automatically it is not degraded by the gastric juices. So nauseous taste or bitter taste drugs, in that cases you need to mask the taste and odor of the drugs. And some cases of dosage forms are needed a site specific action. That means you need to administer your dose into either rectal or vaginal cases. That means you are inserting your dose into the body cavities, then preferably the action it is try to giving either a local action or a systemic action it is try to producing. So whether the selected dosage forms are producing a controlled release manner or a sustained release manner, based on that also the optimal activity and the patient safety and reliability is also be dependent. So the maximum drug action is needed for the patient. That means the optimal drug action is needed for the patient means definitely that dosage forms are having the higher preference rate. And you should also use the desirable vehicle, the substances or the medicines which is having the low solubility, and that definitely that cases you try to preferably using the suitable vehicles. So stability is also a very important one for the prepared dosage forms, whether it is in terms of physical or chemical or mycological stability. So definitely the dosage forms are having the stability is good means definitely that dosage forms are having the higher preferably using rates. And the elegance attractiveness, that means the elegance is good means automatically the patients are accepted the dosage forms, and the selling rate is will be very high, and the usage rate is also very high for the patients. That means the appearance and organoleptic properties you try to increases on the prepared dosage form, definitely it is producing a good elegance to the product. And I already given convenience route, that means the patient is self medication is possible, then definitely that dosage forms are having the high preferable rate. And you should use the dosage forms in a less number of times, that means dosing frequency is less, and automatically the patients or consumers acceptance ratio is will be very high. So the types of dosage forms are broadly classified into the two areas. One is based on the route or a mode of administration, and the second one is based on their physical form of the dosage form. So first, based on the route, the dosage forms are classified into the oral, topical, rectal, parenteral, respiratory, vaginal, nasal, ophthalmic and otic dosage forms. So if you see the first diagram, this is the oral route of administration, and you are applying here some ointment or cream is applying topical route. And these are the rectal suppositories, so that is administered by the rectal route in this diagram. And these are the mostly respiratory or inhaled dosage forms, especially we are using for the asthma patients or the who are having the bronchial asthma, that definitely these respiratory and inhaled dosage forms are needed. And these are the vaginal dosage forms is using, and this is instilling drops into the eye, ophthalmic dosage forms, and these are instilled into the nasal cavity, so under the nostrils. These are the nasal sprays or nasal dosage forms, and they are some of the drops are instilled into the ear. These are called the otic dosage forms. The otic dosage forms are means it is administered to the ear region. That means that dosage forms we can call as the otic dosage forms. Another area, the classification is based on the their nature or physical form. So there is some dosage forms are existed as a solid, semi-solid, liquid, and gas. The solid dosage forms are broadly categorized into the unit forms and bulk forms. The unit forms are called as a non-divided forms, and the bulk forms are called as a divided forms. The unit forms like a tablet and capsule, and the divided forms like a powders and dusting powders or a facial powders, and semi-solid products like ointment, cream, paste, gel, and suppositories. And the liquid dosage forms like a monophasic and biphasic products are there. Under the monophasic means name only indicating single phase is existed, but biphasic means two phases are existed. In the case of monophasic, only dispersion medium is there, but in the case of biphasic, both dispersive phase and dispersion medium is there. The monophasic liquid products like a syrups and solutions, and the biphasic products like a suspensions and emulsions. The gaseous dosage forms like a mostly the inhalers and aerosols products are comes under the gaseous cases. So these are the some of the products you already familiar nowadays, you are regularly using, like a parenteral products like injections. The injections we are using small volume parenterals or a larger volume parenterals. The smaller volume parenterals like ampoules and vials through the injections we are administering. The larger volume parenterals like a mostly the blood products and plasma substituents and saline samples we are administering by the larger volume parenterals. And the solid products like tablets and capsules are also we will be familiarly using. Apart from that, we are also using some of the cosmetic products. We are using like a paste and nail polish and some of the beautifying skin creams we are using. And including to that, we are also using some of the over-the-counter medicines like we are applying some Iodex double powder and safframycin, some of the cream we are also applying, some of the vapor rub also we are using Vicks. These are the OTC cases. The solid dosage forms are classified into the two areas. One is internal area of the products and second one is externally using products. The internally using products means we are taking into the your mouth and inhale to your intestinal or stomach region. That products are called as internal. External means we are not taking by the oral area, we are taking by either topical or either by the we are using the ophthalmic or by the nasal or by using some of the topical area, that is external cases products. The internal products like powders, tablets, capsules, catchets, pills, lozenges, pastilles, granules. The external products like insufflations, dentrifiers, snubs, ear powders and dusting powders. The solid dosage forms, first I would like to start with solid dosage forms. Like a tablet is a oral dosage form. The oral route is the preferred route because of the easy convenience route, and it is most of the patients will be accepted. So tablet is a unit dosage form. It is having a hard nature compressed medication in a round or oval, and it is having a square route. Different shapes and different sizes of the tablets are available in currently market. The excipients are mainly involving in the tablet formulation is the binders, glidants, lubricants, disintegrating agents, diluents and masking agents and granulating agents. So disintegrating agents are mainly using to ensure that the tablet breaking down the digestive break down into the individual entities, and it is going to breaks mainly helpful for to disintegrate it in the digestive tract. And including that, we are also adding some of the organoleptic agents like colors, flavors and sweeteners. Mainly we are adding to flavor to mask the taste, and sweetness also we are adding, and some of the fragrances we try to mask that we are adding the sweeteners and flavors. And some of the tablets are also we are using the pigments. We are attractively to try to produce the medication to make that uncoated tablets are coated by the some of the pigment colors. So definitely it is usually giving as attractive in nature. So I will show why oral route is the preferred route in one small video. That's why these are so many advantages are there. Because of that advantages, the oral route is the preferred route comparing to the other areas of the administration. So the other products like in the case of solid dosage forms, we are also applying some of the coatings around the tablets. Why we are preferably using the coating means some tablets are having nauseous and bitter taste. We try to mask that the nauseous and bitter taste. We are using the coatings. And you try to increase the stability of the tablets. We are also preferably using the coatings. And you take that the tablets are more resistant to the environment, to the environmental effects like any degradation pathways or decomposition pathways. The tablets are not going to happening by the degradation pathways. We are also preferably using the coatings. And you should extending the shelf life of the product. That means the products are stable for longer period. That means it is try to extending the shelf life or expiry date of the product. We try to preferably using the tablet coating. So how the tablet coating is happened in industry point of view, I will show one more small video for the better understanding how tablet coating is happened in industry point of view. The Lavacort M tablet coating system. the technology is involving is OHARA technology. These are having a pre-programmed software. Peristaltic pump. Now they are adjusting for the coated solution. Now they started the coating. Now they rotated. The tablets are going to revolve in the deep cone blender, and it is also using a pan coater. Now they are on the spray. Now the spraying solution is going to slowly spray on the tablets. You see that the change of the colors of the tablets are observed. Because of this, with the help of the spraying nozzle, the tablets are going to be coated. Now it is connected with the printer. In the printer, how much thickness of the coated solution has happened, it is going to bring the printing. Now the coating is happened. See how it will be beautifully coated, the tablets. So this is where the coating is happened. Mostly in the OHARA technology, in the industry point of view. For better understanding, I will play one small videos. So the next one, buccal and sublingual routes. Buccal and sublingual routes are administered by placing them especially in the mouth. Either under the tongue you are placing the tablet, means you can calling as a sublingual, or you can place the tablet between the gum and the cheek, you can calling as a buccal. So in this first diagram, the placing of the tablet in a buccal, and the second diagram placing the tablet below the tongue, that means sublingual now. Through the sublingual now, the medication is going to rapidly absorbing into the systemic circulation. Because these type of buccal and sublingual tablets are having a rapid absorption rate and they are entering into the bloodstream in a very quick manner. That's why these tablets are calling as a pocket medicines, especially for the case of severe heart attacks. They are using preferably sublingual tablets like nitroglycerin tablets, and try to controlling the mouth ulcers or buccal tablets are try to preferably using. So the examples of drugs are administered by these route are mostly vasodilator drugs and steroidal hormones. Mainly these buccal route or sublingual route is mainly preferable for that you try to overcome the first pass metabolism. That means some of the drugs are having the degrading in the while it is going to contact with the stomach intestinal fluids or GI fluids. In that cases, you try to overcome the first pass metabolism. Mostly the drugs are not going to exposing to the enzymatic environment in the stomach, and the drugs are metabolizing enzymes, especially for the liver is the major site for the metabolism. In that cases, you try to use these routes is a preferred route. Definitely the absorption and the bioavailability rates will be very high for the dosage forms are administered by the buccal or sublingual routes. So severe heart attacks we can call as a pocket medicine. Example is nitroglycerin, that they will administered by the sublingual routes. I will show in one more video how the
Making the wafer sublingually is easy. Rinse your mouth with water to ensure the sublingual space is moist. Carefully peel back the tab and gently push the wafer out from underneath. Lift your tongue, then place the wafer under your tongue on the left or right side of your sublingual space, pressing gently to hold the wafer in place. Close your mouth, relax your tongue, and don't suck, chew or swallow until it is completely dissolved, which should take a minute or two. For patients with dry mouths, keep in place without swallowing for as long as you can, say 5 to 10 minutes. For a double dose, wait for the first wafer to dissolve before placing the second wafer on the other side of the sublingual space. Because the thin membrane under your tongue is rich in capillaries, the medication goes directly into your bloodstream for faster onset of action. Waferix is absorbed into the bloodstream with minimal drug loss.
the bioavailability rate is
Sublingual
very high.
administration offers rapid onset of action, better absorption than oral administration, is needles-free and has no aftertaste.
That's why sublingual route it's very preferable route because it is having the bioavailability rate is very high comparing to the whatever the drugs you are administered by the normal conventional route of administering. So effervescent tablets are calling mostly these are uncoated tablets are contain the medicinal substances. Especially these are trying to producing some effervescence while it is going to contact with the some of the solvents or some of the gastric fluids in your stomach area. Then definitely it's going to react it and it is going to releases the carbon dioxide. So they are intended to dissolve or disperse it in a water and they will go for providing to the swallowing. Before using providing, they are mostly you need to dissolving in a water and you try to take these effervescent tablets because these are having a very rapid dispersion and dissolution rates and these are having the pleasant tasting also is there because of these flavorness is there in the mostly in these tablets. Mostly these type of tablets are mainly consist of the acidic substances. That's why because of that acidic substances like citric acid and tartaric acids and other carbonates or bicarbonates which rapidly releases the carbon dioxide while it is contact with the water. So how it is happened releases the effervescence releases the carbon dioxide. I will show one video. See how it is touch with the water, how it releases the effervescence. That means carbon dioxide is slowly going to release. That's why these effervescence tablets are only suited for the because of that the action is needed in very rapidly and but that mainly consists of the acids compounds. Otherwise, the other tablets are chewable tablets. They are mainly placed in the chewed or prior to this because of this swallowing. They are mainly placed in the mouth for chewing because of the most of the chewing gums you are preferably using. Mainly designed, especially these type of tablets are designing for the children's because most of the some of the vitamins products they will go for administering into these routes. Next, controlled versus sustained release. The dosage forms are mainly administered for oral. It is categorized into the first generation and second generation drugs. So the generation is mainly based on whether it is modified or unmodified. If it is unmodified dosage forms, the release pattern is not changed with the drug delivery cases, then we can call it as it is a first generation dosage forms. If the release pattern is modified, then the modified drug delivery systems you can call it as a second generation drugs. Under the first generation, the conventional unmodified releases of the active pharmaceutical ingredients will come. Under the second generation, the modified releases like a controlled release or sustained releases or delayed releases dosage forms of API molecules will come. So this diagram is mainly indicating it is a blood level curve. So in this blood level curve, you plotted the time versus plasma concentration. Then at different time intervals, how much amount of drug is going to enter into the systemic circulation. That means how much concentration of drug is rising in the blood. It will be represented by this plateau. So if you see that there is two levels in this graph. One is the CSS minimum, standard steady state concentration minimum, and the steady state concentration maximum. If your dosage form is between CSS minimum to the CSS maximum, then you are producing the optimal drug delivery system, and the pharmacological action is good, and it is there within the therapeutic range. So the therapeutic range means it is mainly between the CSS maximum to the CSS minimum. So therapeutic index, how you can call it as a therapeutic index means it is a ratio of steady state concentration of the maximum to the steady state concentration of the minimum. So that ratio you can call it as it is a therapeutic index. The concentration of the drug is between CSS maximum to the CSS minimum, then that concentration you can call it as a therapeutic range. So conventional versus controlled release dosage forms. So the first generation, mainly the drugs are not modified. It is mainly whatever the forms we are designing, and that forms are mainly comes under the first generation. And in this case, the disintegration of the dosage forms and dissolution of the API, it is a spontaneous process. That means drug absorption and distribution mainly based on the physico-chemical properties of the API molecules in the cases of first generation, because we are not modifying any properties. Whatever the delivery or whatever the dosage form we are designing, that is there in the unmodified form. That's why these generation drugs are the spontaneous generation, and mainly it is dependent on the physico-chemical properties of the API. So the second generation, mainly we are modifying the delivery system, or we are modifying the release rate of the drug. That means these are the temporal. That means we are modifying some release profiles. That's why these second generation drugs we can calling as a temporal under the temporal controls. So what is a benefit in the second generation means the drugs which are modified, or the drugs which are having the release profile rate is mainly time dependent or dose dependent. It is mainly avoiding the fluctuations in the plasma concentration, and these second generation drugs are having the better safety profile and better efficacy comparing to the first generation. And the second generation, it is also decreases the number of times of administering the dose. That means in the case of first generation, daily we are taking that twice in a day or thrice in a day the tablets or any dosage forms. But in the case of second generation, it is decreases the frequency. That means it is decreases the number of times you are administering the dose. Better you should avoid the first generation, and you will go for the second generation means it is recommended, because we are only giving the once in a daily, and these are producing the patient's point of view and the better compliances. So the second generation like a sustained releases, because we are modifying the delivery systems and we are modifying the release rate of the drug. In these cases we can call as a sustained release and controlled release. Sustained release means the release of initial API and dose. It may be the release profiles will be prolonged rate. The controlled means that means these are the predetermined manner. The release profile will be mainly based on the time dependent, and it is mainly predetermined manner the drug is releases. That means these are comes under the properly controlled order, and properly controlled order of the API. These are mostly following the zero order release rate. So in this plateau, I am representing the blood level curve, plasma concentration versus time. You can compare the conventional per oral administration dosage forms to the controlled release and sustained release. You see that the controlled releases up to the certain time it is going to constantly releases up to this point, and then plateau levels will become, even though you are increasing the time, the release rate is mainly is not going to increases. That means the concentration of drug in the blood will be constantly maintained in the controlled release. So if you take that conventional release up to a certain point, constantly the drug concentration in the blood is going to rise. So once it is reaches to optimum concentration, suddenly the levels of the concentration levels are going to decrease, as these indicating that the drug is going to elimination phase is started. So in the case of sustained releases also, up to the certain time it is going to gradually increases, and there is a slight decreasing the plasma concentration value after the optimum point, optimum concentration or optimum time, that Cmax or Tmax point. This is called the Cmax point, and this is called the Tmax point. Once it is reaches the drug maximum concentration and maximum time, then slight decrease in the concentration rate of the drug in the blood, that is indicating slowly the drug is going to elimination phase. So we are also using API. Medicine means it is combination of API with excipients. So why we are adding excipients? What is the role of the excipients in dosage form development? The excipients are mainly added to the API molecule mainly to enhance the weight, accuracy and volume, because it is allowing that the accuracy of the dose is maintained and the patient compliance is also be accepted. Once it is producing the bulk amount, the easy for the administration, and it is also improves the solubility rate for the poorly soluble drugs. So once you are added excipients, some drugs are altering their solubility, and it is gradually increasing the solubility levels, and it also increases the stability. Some of the antioxidants, some of the preservating agents are mainly helpful to increase the stability of the API molecule. And it also enhances the bioavailability. That means the rate and extent of drug is directly reaches into the blood or systemic circulation. That rate and extent of drug you can calling as a bioavailability rate. So if you are added some of the excipients like disintegrating agents or solubilizing agents, and these are the agents or permeation enhancing agents, these are the agents are mainly producing a high effect on the bioavailability rates. And once you are adding some of the excipients, or also releases the release rate profile of the drug. That means initial slide you seen that controlled release versus sustained release, and conventional release versus controlled release. That's called them both controlled release and sustained releases we can calling as a modified release cases. So because of the addition of the excipients, we are also modifying the release rate profile of the drug. That means we are also modifying the drug release rate. And it is also addition of the excipients are also in producing the product identification, and it is also increases the patient acceptability and patient compliancy, and it is also facilitated to form an ideal design of the drug delivery case. So you need to formulate any oral dosage form. We are adding some of the active ingredients, including to that active ingredients we are also adding number of inert materials. That inert materials we are knowing as additives or adjuvants or excipients. So generally what excipients we are using in the oral dosage form? So we'll see one is the diluents, binders, adhesives, disintegrating agents, lubricating agents, glidants, coloring agents, flavoring agents and sweetening agents. So let us discuss about one after the other. What is the role of these excipients in a oral dosage form? Diluents are mainly we are added to produce a bulk amount of the dose. So when the bulk amount of the dose is produces, that means some of the API molecules are inadequate to produce the bulk. In certain cases we are additionally adding the diluents mainly required to produce the bulk amount of the dosage form. The bulk amount of the dosage form is there means the patients are ready to take that easily and conveniently by the oral administration. So what are the diluents generally we are using means the diluent selection is mainly based on the ideal properties. So what are the ideal properties means for the diluents means the diluent must be non-toxic in nature, and the diluents must be commercially available in a acceptable grade, and the diluents are also must be available as a low cost, and there must be physically inert in nature, and also the diluents must be physically and chemically stable, and while they are there individually or once they are combining with the API, the stability may not be varied, and that means the physical and chemical stability will be there for the added diluents. And they also must be form a free from the all microbial contaminations. So the diluents selection, if they are producing stability, means they are free from the all microbial contaminations. And diluents are not altering any bioavailability of the drug, and also the diluents must be color compatible. So these are the certain ideal qualities while you choosing the diluents. So these are the qualities will be there, means that diluent we can call as a good diluent. So the commonly used diluents will be mostly list outed. Mostly we are seeing that the commonly used diluents, like these are the common examples for the diluents, like lactose anhydrides, spray dyed lactose, directly compressible starch, or hydrolyzed starch, or MC microcrystalline cellulose, or we can also call it as Avicel, and dibasic calcium phosphate and calcium sulfate, mannitol, sorbitol, sucrose based compounds, and dextrose. These are the commonly used diluents for the making of the solid dosage form, mainly for administering oral route. And some of the binders and adhesive agents we are adding mainly for to the API molecule. The binders are added either in a dry form or in a wet form, mainly to produce the ideal granules, or it is also added mainly for to produce some cohesiveness, and it is compressibility nature is increases in the tablet production, and it is easily going for cohesive compactness is that means easily the tablets will be compressible. So the binders are adding mainly in the dry form or in wet form. The examples for the binders and adhesive like Tragacan, acacia, these are the natural sources. Mainly you are extracting, mainly these are added in the binder concentration in the range of 10 to 25% concentration. And cellulose derivatives like a microcrystalline cellulose, HPMC, and ethyl cellulose also we are adding as a binding agents. And gelatin, if you are preferably using gelatin, mainly in the concentration strength of 10 to 20%. Mainly it is added in the solution form, and glucose also added in the solution form, mainly in the concentration of 50% concentration. And polyvinyl pyrrolidine PVP, mainly it is added acts as a binder in the concentration of 2%, and also starch paste it is also acts as a binder mainly in the concentration of 10 to 20%, and sodium alginate, and also for the sorbitals. These are some of the examples for the binders and adhesives we are generally adding in the solid dosage form, we are administering by the oral route. Some of the disintegrating agents are also we are added mainly to facilitate breaking nature or disintegration nature when it is contact with the GI fluids or when it is contact with the water. The examples for the disintegrating agents like a starch, if it is in the concentration of 5 to 20%, and starch derivatives like a Primosil and Explotab, mainly it is in the concentration strength of 1 to 8%. And some of the clays also we are using, and cellulose derivatives we are using, and alginate components also we are using, and PVP, cross-linked PVP or cross-linked polymers are also we are using as a disintegrating agents. And also we are adding a super disintegrants, especially for the tablets like mouth disintegrating tablets or fast dissolving tablets or oral disintegration tablets. Especially we preferably using the super disintegrants are added mainly for the oral dosage form, the tablets which are disintegrated in the mouth itself. Well, if you are added the super disintegrants to the tablets or mouth disintegrating tablets, it is swells up mainly up to the 10 folds. Within 30 seconds, the tablet is going to disintegrate it, and it is going to releases in the mouth itself. That is because of once it is going to contact with the saliva or in a water. The examples for the super disintegrants like a cross-carbonyl sodium, cross-linked povidons, and also starch glycolate compounds or a starch cross-linked starch. So these are some of the examples we are added acts as a super disintegrants. Some of the portion of the disintegrant is added before granulation, mainly for to produce the granules are having the high compactness, and the granules are having the mainly to produce the binding nature. Then ideal granules will be produced before some of the super disintegrants. So you need to add it. And some portion of the super disintegrants is also acts as a glidants and lubricants. The glidant and lubricants roles. The first lubricant what is a lubricant? While we are adding to the oral dosage form means mainly if you are added the lubricant, it is mainly prevents the adhesion of the tablet material while the granules or powders are flowing from the dye cavity to the punches. Mainly it is reduces the friction between the powder particle, and it is improves the flow rate while the tablets are going to granulation, and the granules are flowing from the dye walls to the punches, granules are freely flowing if the lubricant is added. That means it is reducing the friction between the powder particle, and it is also intended to prevent the adhesion of the tablet material. The examples for the lubricants like stearic acid and the stearic acid salts, magnesium stearate, talc and polyethylene glycols, and some of the surfactants. The glidants are also intended to reduce the friction between the powder particles, and it is also added mainly to promote the flow properties of the granules or the powder materials. The glidants like a cornstarch mainly we are using in the concentration of 5 to 10%, and talc also you are preferably using in the concentration of 5%, and the silica derivatives like a colloidal silica, and also for the aerosols mainly it is in the 0.25 to 3% concentration strength. So these are acts as a glidants. And the flavoring agents and coloring agents and sweetening agents, these are called the organoleptic agents. First we see our coloring agents. Mainly we are added the colors or dyes or pigments mainly in the oral dosage forms, mainly for the three purposes. One is the masking of the color of the drug, and also for the controlling for the misidentification. That means the products are easily identified, and also for the production of the more elegance nature to the product. These are the three reasons we are mostly adding the coloring agents. And that while choosing the coloring agents, all the coloring agents are certified and approved by the Food and Drug Administration, FDC, FDA, and then only that type of colors only you will be preferably using. And the examples of color like yellow 6 sunset yellow, FDC yellow, 5-tartrazine, FDC green and fast green, FDC blue and brilliant blue, and also indigo caramine. These are some of these are the coloring agents are approved by the Food and Drug Administration. The flavoring agents we are mainly produce some flavorness to the product. Mostly the oils are preferably using, especially these flavoring agents we are added for the mouth chewable tablets. Some of the flavor oils are we are using. Sweetening agents are mainly to produce some sweetness to the formulation. Especially we are also preferably using these sweetening agents for the chewable tablets or mouth desiccation tablets or mouth dissolving tablets. The sweetening agents like a glucose components, like a sugar components or mannitol, and artificial sweeteners like a saccharin. The saccharin is 500 times more sweetened than the normal sugar or normal sucrose. But the disadvantage of the saccharin compound, these are having the bitter taste and also having the carcinogenic property. Better you try to avoid these artificial sweeteners because it is having the carcinogenic property. And other artificial agent like aspartame, this aspartame is also having a disadvantage. If you are added the artificial sweetener aspartame, these are having the lack of stability in the presence of the moisture. So other unit dosage form like capsules, mainly we are using in the currently either soft gelatin capsules or hot gelatin capsule. The capsule is mainly, it is a medication mainly containing the gelatin. The outside shell is mainly made up of the gelatin. Whether the gelatin is mainly made up of the type A gelatin or type B gelatin. The type A gelatin is having the isoelectric point mainly in the range of 9 and but the type B gelatin is having the isoelectric point mainly in the 4.5 to 5. So mainly the capsules are added, the capsules are mainly preferably using to mask the unpleasant taste of its API molecule. Mainly two types of capsules we are using. If you see the diagram, one is a hot gelatin capsule in this first diagram, and second one is a soft gelatin capsule. The hot gelatin capsules are mainly used for dry powders or powdered ingredients. The soft gelatin capsules are primarily used for the oils and the active ingredients that are dissolved or suspended in a oil form. So this is a liquid form mainly filled in the soft gelatin capsule, but the solid products are whether it is in a powder form or it is in a granule form or it is there in the adjoint form, mainly it is preferable will be using for the hot gelatin capsules. The other solid product like lozenges. Mainly if you see that mainly the lozenges are consist of the sugar and gum. And because of the sugar and gum is providing the gas, strength and cohesiveness, mainly we are using, these are facilitating the slow release of the medicament. And mainly these lozenges are mainly used in the mouth and the throat for the slow administration and having some of the indigestion problem or cough remedies. Mainly we are preferably recommend these cough lozenges and also for the The strepsils, mainly it is having the honey and lemon, mainly these are having that, these are mainly preferably using the facilitating the slow release of the medicament, especially we are using in the mouth and throat regions. Some other solid dosage form like a pastille is, mainly these medication are dissolved slowly in the mouth, and they soften that, these pastilles are softened than the lozenges, because their bases are mainly made up of the either glycerol or gelatin or the acacia and sugar components. These are also solid preparations mainly dissolved in the mouth itself, but these are softened than the lozenges. Other solid product like dental cones, the dental cones are the tablet form mainly intended to be placed in the empty sockets of the tooth extractions for preventing the local multiplications, mainly to control the pathogenic bacteria mainly associated with the tooth problems. You need to try to provide these tablets are intended to be placed in the empty sockets of the tooth, and also preventing that the pathogenic or microbial bacteria mainly associated with the tooth extractions. These may be also contain, some of the dental cones are also containing the antibiotic or antiseptic drugs, mainly to control the producing the bacterial, antibacterial, or also for the bacteriostatic properties, mainly in the mouth region. And some of the pills are also comes into the oral dosage form. Mainly these pills are consist of the spherical masses, mainly these are consist of one or more medicaments, mainly these are incorporated with the excipients. Pills will be nowadays will be very rarely used. And the granules are mainly consist of the dryness, granules are solid in nature, and the particles often supplied in a single dose sockets or multiple dose sockets. Some of the granules are placed on the tongue itself, mainly swallowed with the water, and they are intended to dissolve in the water before the before taking. Some of the effervescent granules are also consist in the market. Mainly these effervescent granules are consist of the evolution of the carbon dioxide while it is when it contact with the water. Similar to the effervescent tablets, previously we have seen the effervescent granules are also there, but the release mechanism of the drug is similar. The other solid products like powders, mainly we are administering by the oral route. The powders are intended for the internal use. We are taking by the mouth region only by the oral administration. The powders are divided into the two areas. One is the bulk powders and other one is the divided powders. Bulk powders are mainly using for the multi-dose preparations, and divided powders are using for the single dose usage. Mainly bulk powders are consist of the solid and loose and dry particles of varying the degree of their sizes, and they also containing one or more active ingredients. Mainly it is consists of the with or without excipients. Mainly, and if it is needed, it is the bulk powders are also consist of the coloring and flavoring substances. The bulk powders are preferably containing non-potent medicaments such as antacid drugs, and the patients measure the dose by volume, especially the 5 ml of medicine. It is mainly consists of in the bulk powder. These powders are dissolved in the water before administering while by the patient. The divided powders are the single dose powders. Mainly these are enclosed in a small sockets. Mainly these are intended to produce to administer to the patient before swallowing. These powders are also dissolving in the water and for the easy swallowing and easy for administering. And some of the powders are also available as a mixture form. The mixture powders may be stored in a dry form or in a mostly by it is contacting with the wet forms. These mixture powders are prepared by readily in the pharmacy stores, especially for the pharmacist. Whenever they are required for the patient, mainly before it is dispensing to the patient, the pharmacist is readily preparing these mixture powders, mainly in this suspending form. These powders are giving in appropriate strengths, and it is going to dissolving in water or dissolving in a suitable vehicle, and these powders are readily dispensed to the patient by the pharmacist. So these are the solid oral administered powders. Up to this, we have seen that the oral administered powders, especially for the solid. And some of the liquid products are also we are intendedly using for the oral administration. That liquid preparations like oral solutions, oral emulsions, and oral suspensions. The oral solutions are the clear liquid preparations mainly intended for the internal administration. These are also consist of the one or more active ingredient, and these oral solutions are dissolved in a suitable vehicle or a suitable solvents for the API molecule, and you can easily administered by the oral route. The oral emulsions are stabilized form, mainly it is recommended, and these are mainly consist of the two phases. One is dispersive phase and dispersion medium. The biphasic product is actually, and these are either in oil in water type or water in oil type. So these mainly dissolved the dispersive phase in a dispersion medium, mainly it is containing the dissolved solids. The oral suspensions are also biphasic preparations. It is also consists of the finely divided suspended particles are dissolved in a suitable vehicle or suitable dispersion mediums, and these are liquid preparations mainly using for the oral use, and these are also containing the one or more active ingredient. The oral suspensions may show a sediment formation which are readily dispersed on while you giving the shaking, and the suspended particles are uniformly distributed while the shaking process is you are applied sufficiently, and you also preferably using these oral suspensions in a stabilized form, and mainly to correct the dose to be delivered to the particular site of administering. The emulsions and suspensions and these solutions, before taking to that orally, you need to apply the cautionary label is a shake well before use. So other liquid preparations like syrups and elixirs. Both syrups and elixirs are available as a concentrated aqueous or alcoholic preparations. So the syrup is a concentrated aqueous solution, mainly it is containing the sugar. Usually we are preferably using a sucrose or a glucose components. The flavored syrups are mainly convenient to preferably to administered. Mainly these flavored syrups are we are using for masking the taste of the tablet. The syrups mainly medicated syrups are available and flavored syrups are available, and the non-flavored syrups are also available. The medicated and non-medicated syrups are available. If API is containing our syrups, you can call as a medicated. Without API, only the flavor vehicles are there, means that the syrups you can call as a non-medicated syrups. Elixirs are also having the pleasant clear liquids comparing to that syrups, but syrups are having some viscous, but elixirs are having the more pleasant flavored clear liquids. Especially these are mainly containing the potent and nauseous drugs. Mainly you can make into the elixir form. These are also containing the high proportion of the ethanol or high proportion of the sucrose. Mainly it is added to prevent the microbial contaminations, and these are also acts as antimicrobial preservatives, which mainly increases the stability of the preparation. The elixirs are having the more sweetened and also having the more taste and also having the more stability comparing to the syrups. The elixirs are preferably selected for the nauseous drugs and potent drugs. Some of the liquid preparations like linctures we are also using. The linctures are the viscous liquid preparations mainly prescribed for to relief from the cough. These linctures are also containing the high proportion of the syrup and the glycerol, which having the demulcent effect on the membrane while you administering on the throat region. The preferred dose for the administering the linctures in a small dose volumes, preferably we are administering 5 ml. And to produce the prolonged demulcent action, and they should be taken undiluted form. But syrups and elixirs are we are administering diluted with the water while you swallowing. But linctures are while you administering, these are taken as a undiluted form, but these you can take as a lesser dose. The oral drops are also recommended. These are also will be liquid preparations mainly for administering by the oral route. These are also we are administering in a smaller volumes with the aid of suitable measuring devices, and they may be available in a solution form or a suspension form or a emulsion form. Suitable measuring devices we are preferably using either 5 ml cup containers or a 10 ml cup containers preferably using, or a droppers we preferably using. If it is in terms of children's, we are administered by the droppers. If it is a adult patients, we are administered by the dose containers. The other liquid preparations like gargles and mouth washes. The gargles are the aqueous preparations mainly used to prevent the throat problems or a mouth infection problems, and mainly for the, especially we are using the throat infections. Usually they prepared in a concentrated solution with the direction to the patient, you can dilute with the equal amount of the water before use. Either a cold water or a warm water you preferably recommend, but especially we are recommending with the warm water. You dilute the gargles with the hot water while you are rinsing with your mouth, and you need to go for controlling the and preventing the sore or throat problems. The mouth washes are similar to the gargles, we are also using mainly for these are hygienic preparations, and these are also used to treat the infections in the mouth. Some example you are daily recommended in our house, we are using that the Savicol. This is a mouthwash. Every time we are using 3 times in a day. We can rinse your mouth before you taking anything like a food or like a snacks or by the breakfast. After finishing also you can rinse your mouth. Then definitely it is mainly controlling the problems in the mouth and throat problems, and also controlling the it is try to giving that controlling the microbes in the mouth region. So thank you. I would like to continue my next presentation in a mainly other dosage forms like a topical, rectal, vaginal, parenteral, ophthalmic, and otic and nasal dosage forms. So these are the other dosage forms we are administering apart from the oral route. So the first diagram is a topical. We are applying some cream onto the topical area. The second diagram is a rectal, and the third diagram is a vaginal product, and the fourth one is a parenteral product, and this one is mainly we are administered for the respiratory or inhalers, and the nasal products, otic products, and ophthalmic product. So these are some of the recommended references. You can follow the textbooks. I will recommend the good book is the Bentley textbook of pharmaceutics, and also I will recommend this Alton book of pharmaceutics, the science and dosage form design, and also you can go for the pharmaceutics one, Ashok Gupta, and modern dispensing pharmacy by Mehta. So these are the recommended textbooks. It's available in our library, but you should refer these books and you will get the good idea regarding the dosage forms. So thank you for paying your attention. If you are having any queries, you may feel free to contact either by mail or by phone. So thank you.